Mitz, has never responded. We tried to reach. What's his name?
And so what do you want him to?
He needs to be right in front of the bench. Take him out of custody and bring him in the courtroom. Jefferson County Court, Element 2 is back in session. And the court is in session and calls number 24 CCCR 2842, case of style State of Texas versus Anthony Jacob Cormier or Cormier. How do you pronounce it?
Either which way, it depends if I'm in Texas or Louisiana.
Okay, Louisiana is Cormier,
That's it. Yes,
and
sir.
Louisiana is, in Texas, Cormier.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Mr. Cormier, you were here earlier for arraignment. Your arraignment started at 9 a.m. this morning. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And at 9 a.m., the bailiff called your name. You did not answer. However, during the process of arraignment, it was after 9 o'clock you walked in. Is that correct?
Well,
Were
I
you
was supposed to be
sitting-
here at 8:30. It was around 9 o'clock. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, were you sitting on the first row?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then, the bailiff have to come and give you some paperwork? Were you one of the two people who didn't have the paperwork? Or was that another guy? Did you have a blue shirt on this morning?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that was you then.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
You talking about the paper to fill out if I was
Yes.
gonna hire me a
Right.
attorney or if I was gonna have
Right.
a trial myself? Yes.
right,
Yes, sir,
okay.
I got that.
And, you did, now, the court informed you, toward the end of, well, during arraignment, that you allowed to go use the restrooms? You remember that? And I
remember
said, and also the court said that, but, please do not leave the courthouse. If you leave the courthouse and your name is called and you're not here, a warrant can be issued for your arrest. Well, your bond will be forfeited and a warrant can be issued for your arrest. You remember that?
Sir.
You don't remember that? Okay, we have it on tape. Everything is on YouTube, like this here. Okay? Yes. Okay. So,
I was under the impression, Your Honor, I don't mean to cut you off, that the ones that had to come back were the ones that were going to need to talk to the DA about representing themselves, or the ones that was going to need a court-appointed attorney appointed to them by the state. I thought that I was going to get my next court date whenever I check in with my bail bondsman every Monday.
okay. Didn't I say that, we was gonna be put in three categories? One category was gonna be the ones who wanted to hire an attorney.
Mhm.
I said everybody was gonna come before the bench.
That was the first paper.
I said everybody was gonna come before the bench, right? Everybody includes you, okay?
I didn't.
When I said everybody, I didn't say some people were gonna come. I said everybody that's here for arraignment is gonna come before the bench. And then we're gonna put them in three groups. The one who want to hire an attorney, the one who want a court-appointed attorney, and the ones who would like to represent themselves. Okay? Now, your name was called. You were not here. You were not here, and we called your name again. You were not here, and the state moved to have your bond forfeited, and the court granted that motion. Is that correct, State?
That's correct. And at this point, state sees no reason to recall said bond.
So your bond is forfeited. Warrant has been issued for your arrest. You're going to be taken into custody, and you would have to remain there until you bond out. Okay? So you can follow the bill. You can call a jury.
Those did say the 15th, but it was the 13th that the actual photographs were taken. I just wanted to show you that.
Everyone, please stand as the jury coming forward.
Are we on the record, John?
I mean, we're in session, we're on YouTube.
I meant record testimony on the record.
Yeah, we have a court reporter here.
Well, like I said, I wanted to invoke the rule on the record.
Okay, you can do that.
You want me to wait until the jury's in here?
You can do it right now.
Okay, well, I'll invoke the rule.
Okay, so the rule has been invoked. That must be necessary.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yours are be seated. They're standing for y'all. Y'all could be seated. Okay, you may be seated. Jefferson County Court, Law number 2 is 9 session. The court is in session and calls number 23 CCCR 0390. The case is styled the state of Texas versus Denair High. Let the record reflect that Mr. High is present in court with his attorney. The state is also present with the assistant criminal district attorneys. State, are you ready?
Thanks, buddy, Your Honor.
Defense, are you ready?
Ready, Your Honor.
Okay, y'all may be seated. Let the record also reflect that the jury is now present and seated in the courtroom. At this time, Ms. Simmons, would you like to read the information? And Mr. Hyde, would you please stand?
In the name and by authority of the state of Texas comes now the undersigned Assistant Criminal District Attorney of Jefferson County, Texas, on behalf of the state of Texas, and presents in and to the County Court at Law of Jefferson County, Texas, that in Jefferson County, Texas, Denair High, hereafter styled the defendant, heretofore, on or about February 12th, 2023, did then and there intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly cause bodily injury to Victoria Senegal by grabbing her by the neck with his hands. It is further presented that at the time of the offense alleged above, Victoria Senegal was in a dating relationship with the defendant against the peace and dignity of the state.
Mr. Hyde, how did you plead? Okay, you may be seated. Ms. Simmons, would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
May we support?
Yes.
Good afternoon. All right, so yesterday we talked a lot about the law, and today we're going to talk about the evidence. We're going to get to put names to the faces. You're going to see, or anticipate you'll see pictures, body cam footage. You're going to hear testimony from Officer Nathan Hodges with Beaumont Police Department. You're going to hear from the complainant or the victim. You'll hear those terms used synonymously from me throughout the trial. Victoria Senegal. And outside of that, you'll also hear from Victoria Senegal's father, Daryl Senegal. Now, one thing I kind of want to go back on and really key on. Yesterday, we talked a lot about my burden of proof. My burden is to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt each and every single element that the state has alleged. And that is that in Jefferson County, Texas, on or about February 12th, 2023, the defendant, Denair High, did then and there intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly caused bodily injury to Victoria Senegal by grabbing her by the neck with his hands. And at that time, on that date, both the defendant, Demir High, and the victim, Victoria Senegal, were in a dating relationship. You're going to hear from Officer Nathan Hodges with Beaumont Police Department first. He'll come testify before you. I anticipate you'll hear him tell you about his experience as a Beaumont police officer. He'll tell you that he responded to a call on February 12th regarding an assault. And when he responded to that call, he was met by a very distraught victim. And that victim is Victoria Senegal. And you'll hear from her today. She'll come up here and testify right here to the injuries that she received at the hands from someone she had trusted, someone that she had loved. Victoria is a mother to 2 small children. I anticipate the evidence will show that those children were in the home when this assault took place. How scary is that? At the hands of someone you love, you are hurt. And you'll hear that from the victim. You'll hear how whenever she was assaulted, she was scared and she grabbed her children to leave the house. He kept following her. I anticipate the evidence will show that when she was walking out the door, not only was she just walking out, she was shoved out the door. Didn't even have her car keys. I anticipate she was going to tell you how she had to go find a window to yell in, "I need my key so I can leave." Only to have Demir High grab him, throw him out the door. And she has to gather her 2 small children, get those keys, get in the vehicle, and now she's scared. She's leaving. She has no phone. I anticipate evidence will show that when she's shoved out of the house, he grabs her phone and takes it from her. How is she going to call the police? She's got these injuries. She's got these small children. She's scared. She goes to her friend's house. Friend's not there. She sees someone across the road. I anticipate the evidence will show she had to use a stranger's phone just to call her father and tell him what had happened. And you'll hear from the father. The father will get on the stand and testify that his daughter, his little girl, and his grandkids came home, came to his location in Beaumont. Father lives in Beaumont. Victoria and Demir shared residence was in Beaumont. He sees the injuries on her face the second she walks in the door. They're visible. They're right there. And today you're going to hear from Officer those visible injuries. You're going to hear about what he observed. You're going to hear the pain that this mother felt at the hands of her boyfriend. You're going to hear from the father what he had to witness or see or hear about what his baby girl went through. And I anticipate the evidence will show you that on February 12th, 2023, in Jefferson County, Texas, Victoria was assaulted by Demir High. Now, whenever I present this case to you at the end, you're going to go to the back and you're all going to deliberate. You have to reach a unanimous verdict. What I ask you early on is throughout this trial is pay attention to the evidence. Look at the evidence. Listen to the testimony. There's a lot of moving pieces here. It's your job as jurors to see exactly what happened. And I anticipate the evidence will show you the assault that occurred in Beaumont, Texas at the hands of Demir High. Thank you, and I look forward to presenting this case to you.
Okay. Ms. Wilkerson?
Like court.
Yes.
Counsel. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. That was a powerful story. And if it went down like that, I would expect that you would convict my client. That's not how it went down. In fact, what you're going to hear is that earlier that day, the two had been arguing. You'll hear how Mr. High, on numerous occasions, including that day, had reached out to her father and her mother to intervene in situations that had become volatile. You'll hear the words that her mother used to her, to Mr. High rather, about her temperament and having that rage inside of her that her mother had. And it's her mother saying these things to Mr. High, right? you'll hear about how Mr. Hyde said that he was gonna go to Houston on the day in question after Victoria Senegal struck him in the mouth. Now, she's gonna say that, or I expect she'll say anyway, that that was not intentional, that she was trying to take Mr. Hyde's phone from him when that happened. Of course, Mr. Hyde was on the phone with her father when that took place, asking him to come over because of the volatile situation that was brewing in the home. Ultimately, Mr. Hyde leaves. And then there's some discussion, by the way, this is leading up to the Super Bowl, right? They're supposed to have a Super Bowl party this day. So Mr. Hyde leaves. Miss Senegal contacts him and asks where he is. He says getting gas. You'll hear how Miss Senegal then threatened him, saying that that's what he told all those other hoes in the past, and that she's not the one to play with. Right? You'll hear how she told police that he followed her when she left the house, but that won't be true either. Instead, what Mr. Hyde did was take the phone that Miss Senegal had left to her father's house right away, right after she left. And you'll have to process all of this and come to a decision at the end. I guess if it were as neat and tidy as what the state came up here and told you, then yeah, it'd be a perfect case. So I encourage you, and I know you will, listen to all of the evidence in this case, all of it, before you make a decision. And use your common sense that you come in the door with, your life experience that you come in the door with, right? To determine why someone who's going out of their way, and by the way, you'll hear that the reason that he involves Mr. Senegal, her father, is because of a prior relationship, right? So you might think that a little bit strange. Well, why would you involve someone's parents? It's breathing issues again. It's because they have a prior relationship, right? So you have somebody who is going above and beyond to de-escalate a situation, to talks about going to Houston and is told by both Miss Senegal and her father, no, you don't have to do that. Don't go to Houston, right? And so he decides not to go to Houston, leaves the house for a little while to calm down. After everything, then you'll be challenged to make a decision in this case. And I don't envy that job, but I know that y'all will sit here patiently and listen to the evidence in the case and be fair. And that's all I ask of you. Thank you.
Okay. State your name for your first witness,
Yes, Your Honor, State Police Officer Nathan Hodges.
Nathan Hodges. Okay. Officer Hodges, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, you may take the witness stand.
I'm gonna come where you need it.
Okay, good.
Could you go ahead and state your name for the record, please?
Yes, ma'am, Officer Nathan Hodges.
Okay, and Officer Hodges, are you a certified police officer?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been a certified police officer?
Coming up to 5 years now and a half.
Who's your current employer?
Beaumont Police Department,
Okay, can you tell the jury how long you've been with Vermont Police Department?
for approximately 5 years.
Okay. And how long have you, I'm sorry, what is your role with them?
Patrol officer.
Can you list some of your duties and describe them to the jury for me?
Yes, ma'am, it's basically to uphold the law. Essentially provide anything for the public as needed.
Do you have any prior law enforcement experience outside of Beaumont Police Department?
No, I do.
Okay. Now, let's go back to February 12th, 2023. Were you on duty that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you dispatched to a residence in Beaumont in reference to an assault?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, was this residential in Maury Lane?
Yes, ma'am, the original location.
Okay, do you recall if this was the actual residence where the assault took place?
It was not,
Okay, so when you were dispatched to a residence in Beaumont, to whose home did you respond to?
to the complainant's, father's house, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, whenever you arrived on scene at that residence on Maury Lane, can you tell the jury who was present?
Yes, ma'am, it was the complainant, her father and her mother.
Okay. And you made contact with the victim in Victoria's Interval at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you able to observe any injuries on Victoria?
Yes, ma'am, I seen, there was some scratches on her neck as well as a busted lip.
Busted lip?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other injuries you may have seen at that time? But they were visible for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she inform you at that time where the assault had actually taken place?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
And where was that?
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
Objection sustained.
Were you made aware at that time that the assault had taken place at a separate location?
Objection, leave.
Objection overruled.
You can go ahead and answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know where that address was? Was it in Beaumont?
Yes, ma'am, it was on the north end.
Okay. And that's in Jefferson County, Texas?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Were you ever informed by the complainant that she was assaulted?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes, you may.
I'm handing you what's been marked State's Exhibit 1. Do you recognize this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what is it?
It appears to be the USB that contains the video.
Okay, can you tell me what exactly it contains in terms of the video?
Yes, ma'am, it's my body cam footage from my communication with.
And
Central,
how is it recorded?
through my body worn camera.
Are you a competent operator of that body worn camera?
Yes, ma'am.
Does this fairly accurately depict the image or the is it a fair and accurate depiction of what occurred that night?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, and no alterations have been made for purposes of this trial, other than purposes of this trial?
No.
Your Honor, I'm gonna send this to you guys for inspection.
Okay.
Your Honor, I would object to admission of the body worn camera footage. It contains hearsay both from the complaining witness as well as from her father and her mother as well. All of these people, the father was subpoenaed by both parties. He'll be here to testify. Mom will be here to testify when we get to put our case in chief on, and alleged victim is here to testify. The statements made outside of this court are not admissible.
Objection sustained.
I'm gonna go back real quick. Now, when you made contact with Victoria and you had left the location, did you ever leave the location and go to the residence where the assault took place?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that's still in Beaumont, correct?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
For what reason did you return to the scene?
It was to get some of her belongings.
Did you stay with Victoria the entirety of that time?
During my time there, I actually stayed with, the actor.
The actor,
Yes, ma'am.
who was that?
Mr. High.
Do you see him in the courtroom today? Can you point to him and identify him by an article of clothing?
Yes, ma'am. They were in a black top, a black shirt.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
The record was so reflect.
Did you hear any statements from Demir at the time that you had made contact with him at that location?
Yes, ma'am. All I asked was, the incidents that occurred. All that I was told was, they got into a verbal argument. Other than that, nothing happened.
Did Demir have any markings on his person?
No, ma'am, he did not.
Did you isolate Demir from the victim?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
They never made any contact at that time?
No. At all.
Was Victoria inside the residence while you were with Demir?
Yes, ma'am, she was.
And she was alone?
Yes, ma'am, I believe.
No further questions for this witness?
Mr. Wilkins?
when you spoke with the complaining witness, Ms. Senegal, did she tell y'all that there had been arguments going on throughout the course of that day?
All that I was told was just of the initial verbal argument.
Okay. So with regard to taking a statement of Ms. Senegal and taking Mr. High's statement, is that the only involvement that you had in this case?
Yes, sir, that is.
All right, and so you're talking about you returned with Ms. Senegal on the night the allegations were made, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Right. And so do you have any knowledge as to whether Ms. Senegal returned the following day?
No, sir, I do.
And so that essentially completes your involvement in this investigation?
Yes, sir, it does.
That's what.
Ms.
No
Simmons?
further questions. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, may this witness step down. Officer Hodges,
Yes, sir.
the rule has been invoked. And since the rule has been invoked, you're not allowed to talk to any other witnesses about this case or anyone except the attorneys that are involved in this case.
Yes, sir.
If you violate this rule, you can subject to be held in contempt of court. You are excused, and you have a blessed day.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Ms. Simmons, you'd like to call your next witness?
It calls Victoria Senegal.
Victoria Senegal. Ms. Senegal, you can come forward. Ms. Senegal, would you please raise your right hand? Ms. Senegal, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Ms. Senegal, you may put your hand down and you can take the witness stand. Ms. Simmons, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Again, could you go ahead and state your name for the record for me? Victoria. Okay, now, Victoria, I want to bring you back. Is that fine? Okay, back on February 12th, 2023, were you in a dating relationship with anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, and who were you in a relationship with? Is he in the room today? Okay. Can you point to him and identify him by an article of clothing for me? Right here? I'm going to ask that you speak up just a little bit. We have our court reporter taken down for the record. Your Honor, at this time, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
The record will so reflect.
Now, let's go back in time a little bit further. How long had you and the defendant, Daenerys, been in a relationship at that time? 6 months? And how did you and Daenerys meet?
We actually met in Walmart.
Walmart? At that time, did the relationship begin?
No, not
Can you describe what the relationship with the defendant was like during those 6 month period?
at the beginning was very, we got along very well. He was very nice, as well as my children. They had any problems with him.
Now, you say at the very beginning he was like that. Did it change?
He continued to do things for me and be nice, and so that I did see, some changes,
What were the changes you saw?
just in his behavior.
Can you describe the behavioral changes for the jury?
He had a short temper at times.
Short temper?
Yes.
Does that include yelling?
He's just getting mad quickly.
Was that anger towards you? Was it ever towards the children?
No.
Okay. So at what point in time did you and the defendant decide to move in together?
After about, it was pretty early, so about 2 months.
2 months?
Pretty early.
Where was that home located?
Woodland.
Woodland?
Yes.
Is that in Beaumont?
No.
And is that in Jefferson County, Texas?
Yes.
Okay. Did your children have their own room in the residence?
Yes, baby.
Okay. What was their room right next to the master bedroom?
Not right next to it, it was separated.
Separated. Can you kind of explain to the jury how it was laid out in terms of where the children's bedroom was?
This is our bedroom, and this is the separation of the kids.
So you say the separation, was there a hallway leading to the children's room?
The living room.
The living room?
Dining room.
Okay.
And then the living room.
So you have your master bedroom on this side, and then it opens up into the dining area, and then your children's room's on the other side. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you told me a little bit about your relationship with the defendant, but let's jump back to February 12th, 2023 again, okay? Do you recall this day?
I do.
Did you have any specific plans with the defendant on that day?
Yeah.
What were those
We had
plans?
A Super Bowl party. Invite people over.
Did that ever happen?
It did not.
Why not?
He was upset with me, so he decided to send us cancel.
He was upset with you. Was he
The day.
upset with you at the very beginning of the day? Did the
The day
argument?
before.
The day before?
Yeah.
So how long had y'all been arguing before February 12th?
Just on and off, maybe week or so, maybe week or
So-
so.
The arguments were steadily ongoing?
Yeah.
The morning of February 12th, 2023, y'all were still arguing at that point.
We're not arguing. He actually is up on the couch, and then I, spoke with him that morning and said, good morning, I was in the house, I don't want to see anything off. So can you just, act normal, or can we just talk about whatever's going on?
So when you,
After that, I need to be.
he didn't want to talk about it. What did he do since he did not want to talk about it?
He started being verbally abusive.
Verbally
Just saying
abusive.
a lot of different things.
What was he saying to you? Do you remember?
That he didn't need me, I wasn't anything, just things like that.
So the extent of your argument was about the relationship.
It was,
Were you trying to talk to him one-on-one about the relationship?
I was,
Did he allow that to happen?
no,
How not?
he intervened, he got my dad involved. He called my dad a lot.
Did you want him calling your father?
I didn't,
Okay.
because I feel like we were two adults, so I didn't need my parents to be involved. My
So-
mom or my dad.
We're still on that morning. You said he called your dad to get him involved. Did you ask him to stop calling your father?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and he didn't do it?
No.
What did you do at that point?
That was just when he called us, and just kind of try to take the phone from him and let him know, hey, we're grown, can we talk about it? And he said that I hit him.
So you tried to grab the phone from him.
Yes.
Did
Because I
you-
wanted to talk.
Did you make any contact with his person whenever you tried to grab it?
I did not.
No. Your dad was still on the phone at that time, though?
Yes.
Right. Did your dad end up coming over?
Yes, he did.
Was it just your dad that came over?
No, my mom came over as well.
So your mother and father came over that morning after y'all had been arguing
Yes.
at the request of Daenerys High.
Yes.
You just wanted to talk to them about your relationship on your own.
Correct.
How long did your parents stay there?
They stayed like 30 minutes to an hour, and maybe my mom didn't stay long at all. She just came to get my children because we were arguing and she didn't want them to be involved.
So your mom left with the children.
Mhm.
And it was just you and Daenerys at that point after your father had left as well.
After my dad left.
Mhm. Okay. He left?
Mhm.
Throughout the entirety of that day, did y'all continue to argue?
No, I actually left as well. I went to a friend's house.
Okay.
They were having a get together, and I thought it would be good for me, like, he could just kind of get away. And, he texted me and asked me where I was, and he told me to come back. And I said, well, why? Because you said you would stay, you were going out of town. So, it's like he was demanding me to come back home, so that we can talk.
You said he demanded you come back home?
Yeah, he called and for a respect.
Did you eventually come back home to talk to him?
Yeah, I let him know I was gonna come back over the night.
Did another argument ensue later that night?
Yeah.
Around what time?
Maybe about 8:39.
Okay. What was the purpose of that argument? What caused that argument to ensue?
Well, he went in the bedroom, y'all were watching Super Bowl, but he went in the bedroom and I said, hey, the food was ready, and he was like, well, you should have told me that, before, and I said, well, I wanted to pick my kids' food first, and then we could have ate together. And he got,
So there was an argument over the dinner?
yes,
Did he ever leave again at that point?
he did.
Where did he go?
I don't know.
Did you text him?
He said he went to get gas, but I don't know for sure if that's what he meant.
Did that upset you? Whatever he claimed to go and get?
A little bit,
Why did it upset you?
because he mentioned before that he said that to women and he was cheating on them.
So you mentioned that he had said before, he said to women, are you saying he would go get gas? That's what he would claim?
Correct.
Whenever he left to go allegedly get gas, was he gone for long?
He was about 30-45 minutes.
Did you lock the door?
I did.
You had your kids back at this
That's for
point.
the safety of my children and my children here.
So your kids are back home with you and you locked the door.
Yes.
Due to the argument?
No, I was out the door.
Okay.
We had 2 locks, so.
So when he comes back and he had just gotten gas, or he claimed to have gotten gas, he was gone for quite some time, about 30 to 45 minutes, we said. Did he call you and ask you to open the door?
Yes.
Okay. And did you open the door
I did.
pretty much right away?
Yes.
So whenever he comes in the house, can you tell the jury where he went?
We went to the bedroom.
Did you immediately follow him?
No, I waited a little while,
Okay. About how long did you wait?
about 10 minutes.
Were you trying to let him cool down? Was he pretty angry when he walked in the door?
A little bit.
Okay. Did you know why he was angry?
I didn't, because he had been gone. I don't know if it was because of the food or what, I don't know.
So during the time where he's gone to get gas, y'all aren't texting,
No,
y'all aren't talking.
no,
You eventually go find him in the bedroom. What is he doing?
right now, he's on his phone. And I asked him, could we talk?
Did he want to talk to you?
No,
What did he do?
they didn't want to talk, and if I didn't leave him alone, he would call my dad.
Did he call your dad?
He did.
What did he say to your dad on the phone?
And then I wouldn't leave him alone, and I told him like we were grown and we should talk, just me,
Was he yelling at this point?
not at the first time,
Okay.
no.
He still has your dad on the phone though.
Then he shouted and said, leave me alone, Victoria, and I said, okay, don't scream, you're gonna steal my kids. And I walked out of the room, and he just got up and rushed behind me.
Okay. We're gonna pause real quick. We're gonna set that. He got up out of the bed and that's when he's shouting.
Yes,
At that point, did you start walking back to your children's bedroom?
yes, I actually ran to the.
You ran?
Because I didn't know he was coming.
Did he follow you?
Yes,
Okay. And when he followed you, what happened when you got to your children's room?
he choked me and he put his hands in my mouth.
Can you explain to me how he choked you?
I did,
Where did you feel that pain?
um,
Did you sustain any type of injuries from that?
I did.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes, you may.
I'm handing you what's been marked State's Exhibit 2 through 26. I'm gonna take these off for you. These may be hard to look at and I apologize, but if you would go through each and every one of these, do you recognize these photographs?
Yeah.
You can just look through for me. And what are these photographs? You're fine, take your time.
Injury from the mirror. Okay,
Injuries from February 12th, 2023,
yeah,
when he had grabbed you.
yeah,
Do these fairly and accurately depict what had happened that night?
yeah.
You said these injuries caused you pain. Did you have a chance to look through them?
I did.
Your Honor, I'm tendering to defense for inspection.
Objection.
Exhibits 1 through 26 are admitted,
This is exhibit 2.
2 through 26 are admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
I'm gonna pass these to the jury, Your Honor.
Okay.
I ask that you want to look through. I want to do that. While they're taking a look at those photographs, Victoria, I kind of want to go down a little further that night. After Daenerys had grabbed you on the face and neck. I'm sorry, do you need a minute? How did you get him off of you?
I yelled at my children.
Your children were in the room? Did they see everything that had occurred? What was their reaction?
Objection, Your Honor.
Your Honor, she's testifying.
Shut up.
So she can't talk about what the kids allegedly said, that they're not, my understanding is not even being called as witness.
She didn't say reaction.
That's correct.
She didn't ask what they said. She asked what was their reaction. The objection is overruled.
Going back to that, what was your children's reaction?
They were crying.
Did they seem scared?
Really?
So you said he eventually let go. Did he leave the room?
He did.
And at this point, did you try to grab your kids to get ready to leave?
I did.
Okay. And when you're trying to leave the house, what did Daenerys do?
He came to the door and, he pushed me in my face.
Take your time.
I picked up my car and he always took my keys and keys in on the side of the door. And I just looked at the door. I was picking my daughter up, he said, get out, please. The person, and he opened the door and pushed us out, and my oldest daughter fell to the ground.
So he not only pushed you, but he pushed your child. And before he did that, as you're trying to leave the house, he took your phone from you.
Yes,
You had no way to call the police.
Objection leading, Your Honor.
She had just testified to Your Honor.
The whole,
Okay. Objection sustained.
Whenever you were pushed out of the house, then what happened?
my kids were screaming, crying, so I told them to wait by the car. While I was in the house after, he had placed me in the room, I opened up the window. So I went up to the window and I screamed out, I need my keys. I can, and I went into the car, he threw the keys out to the street. Then I got in the car and came out the house.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. He threw your keys out at you. At that point, did you and the children leave the home?
We got in the car and we were leaving, and he was giving his vehicle and all.
For how long did he follow you?
Probably about 10 to 15.
Minutes. Did he just at one point turn another direction and go a different way?
I stopped in the parking lot so that I could turn.
Were you trying to lose him?
Yes.
Where did you go when you lost him?
I went to a friend's house so I could use her phone.
Was your friend there?
So
So what did you do when your friend wasn't there?
I seen her neighbor across the street and I asked could I use her phone and call mom and
So
I know he had been talking to me.
did you make contact with your dad on that phone?
I did.
At that point, where did you go when you made contact with your father?
Well, he told me Vanilla had just left his house and told him that.
I'm gonna stop you right there. No, you're fine. After you made contact with your father, though, where did you go?
I went to my dad.
You went to your father's house?
Yes.
Is it at that point that you had made the decision to call the police?
Yes.
Did an officer come out to your father's house?
Yeah.
Did he assist you with anything that night?
Get back to the home so that I can get some things.
What was it that you needed to get?
both, actually.
So you did go back to the scene later that night
Yeah,
with the presence of,
you know,
is that the only time that you had gone back to your house, that house after the assault?
I went back again with the feeling.
You said you went again for a civil standby. Do you recall when that was?
I know, it was a lot back and forth because I had to go through, his lawyer, whatever, just to set up that time to go there, yeah.
Did you ever go to the house again by yourself after the assault?
No,
Were you able to ever recover all of your belongings?
no,
No further questions at this time.
Mr. Wilkerson?
Mr. Nicole, when you made your report to, police, you told the police officer that, Mr. High never struck you, correct?
kind of,
You did not say that. You're sure?
that he never struck me.
That's correct, that he never hit you.
I think that he-
You did say he hit you. Your Honor, can the jury be excused for a moment, please?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, of the jury, would you please, follow the bailiff out of the courtroom? Everyone, please stand as the jury exits the courtroom. jury back in? Okay, let's see where we going. Now, there was a lady in the back. She wasn't a witness, was she?
I know who that is.
Yes, she's outside. That's, Miss.
No, the rule had been invoked.
Yeah,
And if you knew
I've
she was a
never met
witness,
her.
why you didn't, I mean, we didn't know who the witnesses were.
Never met her before. So,
What? Well, you could put it on the floor, near you.
It's so small, the press don't get turned over.
Yeah, I'm saying you could put it on your right-hand side.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, you're welcome. You may be seated. Mr. Wilkerson, you may proceed and witness. The, objection was overruled. You may proceed.
So I had asked you, the father of your children, his name is Jordan Green, correct?
Correct.
And, in fact, the argument that you and Mr. High were having the day before, February 12th, that involved Mr. Grant, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. High contacting your father to intervene, involved the fact that, Mr. High was going to, was willing and going to pay for the kids' care, correct? And then you, during the course of that argument about Mr. Grant, you shared some things with Mr. High, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. High was upset because, those things that you shared with him, could have created a health safety for him. Is that accurate?
That's what he thinking.
Right. And, Mr. High, now, Mr. Grant, let me ask you this part too. This isn't your first time to, have issues with domestic violence, is it?
No, it's not.
No. In fact, you made allegations before against others, correct? About domestic violence.
I've been through it before.
Right.
Correct.
And was that with Mr. Grant?
No.
No, that was with someone else?
Correct.
All right. Now, did you refuse to provide text messages between yourself and Mr. Grant to Mr. High so that he could turn those over to law enforcement? You refused, correct? And, so you preferred to conceal any threat to Mr. High from law enforcement, correct?
Well, before I answer your question,
Objection non-responsive. Your Honor.
Objection sustained.
You wanted to prevent law enforcement from intervening, regarding Mr. Grant and, the things that he was saying. Isn't that accurate? But you have no problem coming here and asking this jury to convict Mr. High over these allegations that you're making, correct?
Correct.
Why is it okay for someone to threaten the man who's paying your way and your kid's way, but that's okay, you want to conceal that, but you want this man prosecuted? Objection non-responsive.
I don't know if was she trying to answer the question?
She said, can I ask you a
no, can
question?
I answer? I didn't know the question, but
Yeah, it was a question.
can you repeat your question?
Why do you want to conceal issues that might have been a threat to Mr. High's personal safety and yet sit here and shield your children's father, and yet sit here and ask this jury to convict Mr. High of allegedly committing acts of violence against you.
The mayor had instigated things with my kid's father.
Wait a minute, let me back up on that for a minute. When you say instigated things with your kid's father, do you mean that he went to a birthday party they had?
Oh, you.
Yeah, and your kid's father got upset about that, correct? You asked Mr. High not to go.
Correct.
But he went to the birthday party, and that's what you're saying is instigating things with the kid's father, right? Right. Objection to the non-responsive portion, Your Honor.
Objection sustained.
So essentially, if the criminal activity isn't getting revenge against Mr. High, then it's okay, right? I mean, you're making these allegations, you're asking this jury to convict him because you're upset with him, correct? Okay. Why is it okay then for people to threaten his life?
He threatened someone else's life, and of course they did the same.
Are you saying that Mr. High threatened someone else's life?
Correct.
Okay. Now, he works for the Bureau of Prisons, right?
Correct.
He's a correctional officer, correct?
Correct.
And works with dangerous and violent inmates, correct? And as far as you know, he's never had a physical conflict with any of them. Is that accurate?
For that.
Yes. As far as you know, that is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. So violent inmates, no physical issues. Lady with 2 kids, brutal assault with some scratches on your face and you say they are from him grabbing you. Isn't it true that those could have easily been made from you picking up your kids?
No.
Now, isn't the kids' bedroom right there by the door?
Yes.
All right. So, but you told this jury you were walking down the hallway, getting ready to leave, correct?
I said I was walking out the door.
Okay. So you said you were walking out the door and Mr. High got in your way.
Correct.
And then you said he opened the door and pushed you out, right?
Correct.
So if he only grabbed your face, how did he push you out the door?
He grabbed my face and put his hand in my shoulder and beat me. And he tapped me.
I'm asking you about the door, first of all, because you said he's pushing you out the door. So now I'm trying to get you to explain that to these jurors, because you understand it's not making sense how it happened, right?
How he pushed me out the door.
Right. These statements that you're making, they don't fit together, do they?
No.
Okay, so you said he only grabbed your face, right?
Correct.
Right. So how did he push you out the door?
He opened the door and pushed me and my children out.
Okay. Pushed physically, like,
To get out, correct.
okay. Now, again, you told police officers that he only grabbed your face, right?
Asked me what happened to my face. So, yes.
And so, your father gave you some advice regarding your frustrations with Mr. Grant and him not paying for the daycare, correct?
Never spoke to my father about it.
You never spoke? That's not what Mr. High asked your father to come over about?
No,
You never spoke with your father about Mr. Grant not wanting to pay for the kids' daycare?
no.
Okay. So you also said that you yelled in a window to get your keys from Mr. High. would you agree that the window that I showed you a picture of, that's the only window for the apartment?
No,
Okay, would you agree that that's the window next to the door?
yes, they have two windows
Two windows
on each side.
on each side, one on each side of the door? Right, and those windows stayed locked, correct? Okay, so when you yelled in the window for your keys, was the window closed or had you managed to somehow open it?
No, getting my kids ready to leave out of the house, I unlocked the window.
You just said it was locked, that they were both locked.
They were always locked until that night, that particular night, because I didn't know if I was gonna tell them to block the window, I blocked the front door, I didn't know which way we would be exiting. Because he was acting the way he was hysterically, so I was trying to plan my exit, so I unlocked the window.
Right.
I did.
Okay. So on that night, you unlocked the window.
Correct.
You were trying to plan your exit, is what you say, right?
Correct.
So why did you have an issue with Mr. High going to Houston?
Because we had just had a big argument and I wanted him to try to just cool off and come back so we can talk.
Alright.
I didn't want him to go far away.
Right. So he was trying to get away from a volatile situation, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And, you got upset about him wanting to go to Houston to get away from the situation, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then, so ultimately he comes back and arguments come back, right? Right? Okay,
Last again.
so he comes back, y'all watch the game. Now, at some point, he left again, right? And said, when you asked him where he went, he said to get gas, right? And that's when you proceeded to tell him that you weren't the one to play with, right? All right, so why did he leave again? Are you saying that y'all didn't argue during that time period? Or did y'all argue?
We were watching the game and then he just went to the bedroom.
Okay, well, how did he get from the bedroom out of the house?
He ended up leaving.
Why?
When I went in the bedroom and told him about the food being ready,
Okay,
then I should have been told him.
all right, so he left the house again because there was discord between the two of you, correct? And instead of thinking that that would be a good idea to separate the two of you so that this volatile situation that's been ongoing doesn't get any worse, you know, so that you're not assaulted as you allege he did on to you that night. He leaves yet again. And instead of just leaving it be, you're telling him that you're telling him that you're not the one to play with and that the door's going to be locked when he comes back, right? Okay. Now, when he finally did come home, the door was in fact locked, wasn't it? Right. And he had to call you to get in the house, right? All right. So now we're around what time in the evening?
No,
Okay. So then you said that after he grabbed your face in the kids' room, he pushed you out the door, although you had previously said that he never made any other contact with you than grabbing your face, which today you characterized as choking. Now, you said that he took your phone when you were leaving. And then you also alleged that he started to follow you. Why didn't you go to the police department?
I was too far away from him. And I was scared. I had my children, I was screaming and crying.
All right, so you said that he followed you for 15 minutes, right? 10 to 15 minutes. And the kids you're saying we're scared, right? And so you're saying that in 15 minutes, you couldn't get from that apartment to the police station?
I was going originally to my dad's house and I was closer to him. But he was following me, so I stopped in the parking lot and turned the other way.
All right, so why didn't you go to the police after he wasn't following you?
I just was trying to get someone to, my children were very scared and I was too.
So scared that instead of going to law enforcement, you went to a friend's house who you say was at home, right?
Correct.
What friend was that?
I'm sorry.
What was your friend's name?
Her name is Brittany.
Brittany? What?
I don't know her married name. Her name is Brittany.
Okay, what's her maiden name?
I don't know.
Oh,
I really don't know.
so there's no way for me to get in contact with this Brittany person and find out if she was there that night, if she wasn't there that night. Tell you what, what's her address?
I don't know her address. I know how to do it.
All right. What's the neighbor's name? And you called your dad rather than the police, right? So you wanted to be near somebody so bad that you went to a friend's house who you don't even know what their last name is, right? You don't know what their address is or what their last name is, right? And this is who you were seeking comfort from, right?
I was just trying to.
Oh, well, no, because you said that the reason you didn't go to police was because you wanted to be close to someone, right? So that's why you say you went to this friend's house, right? Okay, so you went to this friend's house, whose last name you don't know, whose address you don't know, can't give me any, what's her phone number? All right. And it isn't until you get home that you decide to contact the police, correct?
Contact them.
Okay. And then when you were asked by the state, when you went back to get your stuff, you said you didn't know, right? Right. But then I showed you the vehicle. You said that was your best friend's truck and you were there the day after, correct?
Correct. Wait one second.
But you did not break the window. Okay. So if you were afraid of this man, why did you keep calling him over and over?
I got reached out. Over and over. He called me about a obituary of my grandmother.
All right, so on February 12th and 13th, let's see, around 10 p.m. you called him several times, correct?
No.
No. Okay. In May, you called him a number of times, didn't you?
No.
Did you ever have the number 832-246-3115?
No. I have the same one for you.
That was not a text now application?
I don't have it.
Okay. So it's your testimony then that that phone number, it has no relation to you whatsoever, right? All right. Now, but 409-658-7860, that is your phone number, is it?
No, my number is 409-454-1872.
So Before this assault, did you have any fear of Mr. High?
Before the thought, no.
No? Okay. And when y'all would argue, he would, if y'all couldn't address the situation on your own, he would involve your mother and father, correct? That upset you a great deal, didn't it?
Yes, a little bit.
But he actually, he knew your father, correct?
No, not before.
Okay, so what does your father do for work?
He's a security supervisor.
Okay. So is it fair to say that after the two of y'all met at Walmart, he and your father developed a pretty close relationship?
Yeah.
All right. Now, has your mother ever talked to you about rage issues?
No,
No. Okay. Has she ever talked to you about your temperament
when I was younger, yeah.
when you were younger, but no time around 2023?
No.
Okay. So, and she's here to testify, correct?
Correct.
We subpoenaed her, correct? So if she's telling, Mr. Hyde that she sees in you the same rage issues she had when she was young, she never addressed that with you?
No.
Okay. So on the 13th, Mr. High sent you a text message saying that he had located your cards in the couch, put them in a bag, and asked when you could get the rest of your stuff, right?
Correct.
Now, you said that he started verbally abusing you, telling you you weren't anything, and he wanted to leave you, etc. So if he's telling you that, why are you telling him, why are you upset that he leaves after the game?
He told me that earlier that day.
And you got upset when he left and wanted to go to Houston, right?
My name is Bill. He said he was going to.
So you got upset at him for that, right?
You know, so I just didn't understand why he wants to go.
Right, so, and both you and your father told him he didn't need to do that, right? Okay. And, so, and you allege this is after he's been verbally abusing you, and then you're wanting him to come home after he leaves, right? Okay, so when you say he wanted you to
Yes.
come home, he did ask you where you were at.
Mr. Wilkerson, would you, stop a minute? Ms. Mosby?
So, he asked you where you are. And your response to him is, you will not rush me to come home, and you just left out without saying a word and left me with the impression you were going to Houston, right? That's how you responded to him. And then you go on to say, that you asked him to let you know when he's home, right? And then you tell him when he tells you that he's at home that you're gonna go there and watch the game, right? And you tell him that if he, isn't gonna be there to let you know so that you could go watch the game with your mom, correct? So you're saying, though, that it was him wanting you to come home. You're the one telling him that you're coming over to watch the game though, right? See, again, we keep coming back to these inconsistencies. You understand why it gets a bit confusing, right? You pass the witness, Sean.
No. Ms. Simmons,
Briefly, Your Honor. Let's go back to the actual assault. When he grabbed you, was he scratching at you?
Yeah, again, choked me, and he put his hand in my mouth, and the scratches, that's how he did.
Okay, defense counsel had pointed out exhibits 13, 14, and 15, and you stated that these were the scratch marks on your neck. Is that correct? Did they eventually lead to bruising?
Yes.
And caused you pain?
Right.
You also testified that you have been through this before?
Okay.
Did you testify in that past instance? Were you nervous then?
Yes.
Are you nervous now? Are you scared to be in the same room as Donaire High?
Mhm.
Is this where you would like your children to be?
No.
If you're scared, do you think your children would be? And how old are your children now?
79.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Wilkerson,
You said that you developed bruises from the things that you say were scratches. Did you take any pictures of those?
Yes.
Really? You didn't provide them to the state, did you? You don't have them now, right? Right, okay. And, now you were just asked if you were afraid of Mr. High, you said no. You knew because of your prior issues regarding family violence, what allegations to make, didn't you? Pass the witness, Sean.
No further questions.
Okay.
Mr. Honor.
may this witness step down. Now, Ms. Senegal, the rule has been invoked, and you are not allowed to discuss this case or your testimony with any other witnesses or anyone else except the attorneys. If you violate this rule, you could be held in contempt of court. Okay? You may be excused. Would you like to call your next witness?
State calls Daryl. Daryl Senegal.
Darrell Senegal?
Yes.
Okay.
You should be in the witness room.
Senegal, you come forward. Would you come forward? That's that. Ms. Senegal, would you please raise your right hand? You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, you may put your hand down. You can take a seat in that witness, on the witness stand, and you could adjust the mic. Okay. Ms. Simmons, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you go ahead and state your name for the record for me?
Cynical,
And what is your relationship to Victoria Senegal?
I'm a father,
Do you recall February 12th, 2023?
I do.
Okay. What do you remember from the events of that day?
Well, Mr. Hyde called me several times.
You say several times, are
Kept
we
calling me repeatedly that day.
repeatedly? At what time did they start?
I was, guess early in the day, I don't know, midday, just after lunch, just know it was a lot of calls.
Did you say it was Daenerys that was calling you?
Yes,
Do you see him in the room today?
yes,
Okay, could you point to him and identify him by a look of him? Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has identified Daenerys High, the defendant.
The record will so reflect. You may proceed.
He was calling you repeatedly. Did you ever answer the calls?
I did.
What kind of conversation did y'all have?
He was saying that him and my daughter was having a disagreement. Could I come over? I told him I wasn't coming over. They should try to work it out.
Did you end up coming over though?
I did wind up going over because he, despite what I told him to try to do, he called me back and I told him I was gonna come over.
Was it normal for Daenerys to repeatedly call you when an argument with him and your daughter ensued?
He's called me before.
Was he ever irate towards you?
Well, when you say irate, he's gotten upset, in conversations.
Was he upset towards you?
No,
Or-
just about the situation.
So on February 12th, whenever he had called you and you went over there, how long were you there?
I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or so, maybe a little longer.
Was it just you?
No, her mother came over as well. I didn't know she was coming, but then when I got there and started talking to them about our relationships, my mother knocked at the door and we both started talking. And Mr. Daenerys got irate at one point. So why don't you, he stood up and was like, why are you doing that? We just talking, stay calm and y'all can work through this.
Where at the house were y'all talking?
Kitchen table,
So y'all are
dining room
all,
table, sorry.
y'all are all at the dining room table
Yes,
and Mr. High stood up and began yelling.
yes.
Was he yelling at you at this point or was he yelling at Victoria?
I think he was just yelling at the whole situation, and me and her mother told them both, like, why are you getting irate and just talking about the situation? Calm down.
Was this the first time you had ever seen him become irate like that?
No,
How many times have you seen him become irate in the past?
3-4 times maybe, and they had disagreements.
Was it customary in their relationship to have disagreements?
Off and on, I guess, wasn't, I don't know about all of them, but I know time to time, he can call me or when I see him in person.
Time to time, you were often involved, were you not? Did that bother you?
It did, because he seemed to be the kind of person that just didn't receive like, hey, man, this is past, y'all doing fine, let it go. And he just didn't seem like he was satisfied with that. He always looked at the negative or looked backward versus, hey, y'all past this, just to move forward.
So on February 12th, 2023, when he became irate, he didn't want to move forward. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it just seemed like they wouldn't let the disagreement go. They just kept going to where I left. I wound up leaving.
Just so the jury understands, what kind of relationship did you and Daenerys have to get to this point where he would call you repeatedly?
Well, I thought we had a decent relationship, he came by the house with my daughter several times. Got to meet him, got to know him, and I guess he felt he could talk to me about her and their relationship.
Would you say he kind of grew fond of you over that time period?
I thought he did,
Would that be why he maybe kept calling you?
yes.
Did you ever ask him to stop calling you?
I can't say I did. I told him to try to work it out whenever he would call. Like, I'll work it out. I can, talk it out, go to separate rooms, do something, wait till later, but I'm not coming over. I don't want to get involved to that point. I just try to provide some advice for them to work things out.
So you go over there for about 30 minutes. Whenever you left, did he call you immediately again thereafter?
Wasn't immediate. No.
Okay. About what time did he call? later on? You said it was.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's gonna be hour later. And he said they had talked, I think the disagreement was over the Super Bowl, him going to Houston. And I told him I didn't think that was a good idea.
How did you respond to that?
He said he was gonna go anywhere. And, then he called back and said that they had decided they would meet later and watch the Super Bowl together. I was like, I'm glad y'all worked it out, you know, and, then later that night, he called me back again, said they were having it.
Pause you right there real quick. You said later that night he called again. Do you remember what time that was?
Early evening, Super Bowl was on, so 7, 8 o'clock, certainly evening, I think.
Was that the last
Nighttime.
phone call you received from him that night?
You know, he made several calls that night.
So on February 12th, after you had left their house, did you go home for the rest of the day?
I did,
Okay, were you home for the entirety of the day thereafter?
I was.
And you received one more call from him around 6 or 7. Did I hear that right?
Well, that night, I just remember it was nighttime. He called me, said, wanted me to come over, and I said, I'm not coming. You know, y'all work it out again.
Did you ever receive a call from anybody else that night?
I did,
And who was that from?
my daughter.
Did she make any statements that were concerning to you?
They were. After he called,
Well, I'm gonna stop you right there. So she called you. Do you recall what time she called you at?
well, again, that was nighttime.
It was still
A little bit later, it was still the same day.
a little bit
Same
later.
evening.
Would you say,
I
can you give me a
don't
time
know the
frame?
exact time, but I guess the ball may have ended or getting close to ending.
Late
10 o'clock,
evening.
late evening. Right,
After your daughter had called you, did you end up seeing her that night?
I did.
Where did you see her?
She came to my house.
And whenever you were first met with your daughter Victoria, what did you notice?
Well, she had all kind of bruises on.
You say bruises. Can you
Bruises,
tell the
yeah.
jury what you saw, what you observed?
Her face was all beat up. She was upset and crying. I asked her what happened when she had called earlier and said that Mr.
I'm gonna stop you before we get into too much in
Okay.
terms of what she said, but let's go back to what you observed. You said bruises and marks,
crying.
crying. What was her demeanor outside of the crying?
I just totally upset, distraught.
Was she
Yeah.
alone?
No, she had my, 2 granddaughters with
How old were your grandkids at the time?
They were 6, 7, 9 now, so it had to be, 5 and 7. Yes.
How were the kids behaving?
They were upset and crying as well.
So whenever you saw Victoria with these markings on her face and her neck, did she ever call the police?
I called the police. So, well, I told her to call the police.
Did the police ever show up to your home?
They did.
Did you meet with the police?
I did want me to give a statement and her to give a statement.
And you let them know what you observed?
I did.
Throughout that time and throughout that period when the officers are there and you see Victoria, how was her behavior and her demeanor during that time?
They totally upset.
Did the kids ever come out while the officer was there?
They didn't come up while he was there. I talked to them before he arrived and they said that
Well, I don't want to get too much into what the kids said. But you saw the
I saw
behavior
it.
of the children.
I did.
You saw the behavior of
They were
Victoria.
upset. They were all upset.
No further
I was crying.
questions. Pass it.
Okay. Ms. Wilkerson?
Mr. Senegal, on the day of the Super Bowl, the day that this incident took place, you said you did go over to the house after receiving another call from Mr. High, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is the reason that you went over there because while y'all were on the phone, something happened and he told you that she had just hit him in the mouth?
No, he said they were both arguing.
Okay, so you don't
Without
recall,
fighting.
you don't
They were
recall
arguing.
him making that statement then?
I do not.
All right, when you got there, isn't it true that the disagreement that was going on involved statements that Mr. Grant had made, Mr. Grant being the kid's father?
Mhm.
right? That was the nature of the disagreement that Mr. High and your daughter were having, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your
It
knowledge?
seems that there were several things that were argued.
Okay, so, do you? So why did you, if you weren't intending to go over there, why did you feel the need then to get up and go at some point?
Well, again, Mr. Hyde made several calls to me. I think my daughter in the background. And after I made suggestions for them to work it out, go in the other room, I even had them put me on speakerphone to tell her to go in the other room and told him to do as well.
Mhm.
And I tried to talk about it later. And my daughter was resolved and called me back, and it was just out of frustration, like, let me go over and see what's going on, see if I can interject some calm, some peace, and try to get them to have some dialogue. And that's what I did. When I got there, we sat down, we started talking about relationships. And like I said, I didn't know the mother was coming, but she knocked on the door, and then we both sat down and tried to talk to them.
She came over to get the grandkids, correct?
My knowledge, she said she didn't want them to be around the home.
All right, so, with regard to, so you don't know anything about a conflict involving Mr. Grant between Mr. High and your daughter, is that your testimony?
I know Mr. Grant was often mentioned while they were in a relationship. I don't know anything about conflict that day.
Did you advise your daughter, or did you agree with your daughter that she could not provide messages that Mr. Grant had sent to her to Mr. High?
I'm sorry, say that.
Was there a time at which you concurred with your daughter's refusal to provide Mr. High text messages that had been sent by Mr. Grant?
I told them both, I thought it'd be best they leave their past relationships in the past.
So are you saying
I don't
that?
know if I particularly told them that. I can't recall that, sir.
So
I know I've said to them several times, if y'all gonna have a relationship, you have to leave your past.
If your daughter said that you agreed with her that she shouldn't provide those messages to Mr. High, would you have any reason to dispute that testimony?
I don't recall, sir, about the messages.
Okay.
And we started trying to provide some positive reinforcement to both of them.
Tell you what, let's talk about the time that evening. You said you received a phone call from your daughter. About what time was that?
That was, when Mr. Hyde actually came to my house,
Mhm.
and he was upset and irate, talking to me and my wife, and telling us that it was over between them. We
Mhm.
both said to him, well, why, if it's over, why are you being so upset and irate? And he said, well, really, I just came to bring her phone. I see, he said she left in a rush, and she dropped her phone,
Mhm.
and I came to bring
Okay,
it. And
So-
okay,
so he brings you her phone,
yes, sir.
right? And that happened before your daughter called you, right?
Yes, it did.
Right. So how long had Mr. High been gone before you heard from your daughter?
Maybe. No, actually, Mr. Hyde hadn't left. She called while Mr. Hyde was there.
Then you would have told her not to come home at that time, right? I mean, if Mr. High was there and he's upset, would you have told her, wait, don't come home right now, Mr.
But I
High is
told
here?
her, but I asked her, because she was crying upset, sir. I said, what's going on? I said, Daenerys here. And she said.
Objection,
"You
Your
took my
Honor,
phone."
you're staying non-responsive.
Okay, objection sustained.
What I'm asking you, sir, is if you're saying now that she called you while Mr. High was there, did you tell her to wait to come home, or did you tell her to come home at that time?
To come to my house?
Yes,
I told her we were here, you can come, to come.
okay. And it's your testimony that Mr. High was still there when you told her to come there, correct?
At that time.
All right. And, so he leaves, correct? Now, earlier that day, when you were at his house, did he leave first or did you leave first?
I,
You left while he was still there?
yes, sir.
Okay, so, then were you under the impression at some point that he was going to Houston?
I was. He said he was.
Okay, and, you advised him that he didn't need to do that, correct?
I did. I told him I didn't think it was a good idea.
And, he was going to Houston because of the arguments that were going on between himself and your daughter, correct?
Not necessarily.
Not
Just going to watch the
What was
game
your
with some friends.
understanding
We
about
told him
why he was going to
he was
Houston?
going to watch the game with some friends.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay, so, he wasn't going to Houston to get away from the argument. That's your representation?
correct.
All right, so. Now, you said in your written statement that the disagreement that your daughter and Mr. High had was over Super Bowl plans, correct?
Yes,
All right, so, but they had, canceled their Super Bowl plans, hadn't they?
she wanted to have the plans together and he wanted to go to Houston.
So, they had originally had plans to have friends over, correct? And then that didn't happen because of the argument from the day before, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so,
at least that's what they said.
all right. So you understood when you left the house that day, you understood that Mr. High was going to go to Houston. And what did you know with regard to what your daughter was gonna do?
She said she was gonna probably get with some friends too and watch the Super Bowl. And later, Mr. Hyde called me and told me that he changed his mind. He wasn't going to Houston, that him and her were gonna watch the Super Bowl together. Said that was good. We hung up.
Did you make a comment while your wife was there and you were there with Mr. Hyde about where your daughter got her mouth?
Actually, sir, just for the record, that's my ex-wife.
Your ex-wife, I'm sorry. So did you make that comment? Where did your daughter get her mouth?
I did make it.
Okay, and so, would you agree you made that comment because, she was, well, let's just say less than pleasant?
I made that comment because both of them were less than pleasant.
Okay, so you asked about where your daughter got her mouth because he was being less than pleasant.
They both were
Right.
less than pleasant.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure we
I
got
pointed
that.
out my
that's
daughter
clear.
got that fire from my mother.
Objection, non-responsive, Your Honor.
Objection sustained.
Now, is she your only little girl?
Sir?
Is she your only little girl?
No, she's not.
She's not. Is, where is she, like, in terms of age range? Older, younger?
No,
Sorry?
older, younger,
Yes, sir. Like, how many kids do you have?
7.
7? And, as far as where she falls in that lineup, where is she one of the oldest, one of the youngest, middle?
No,
Middle? And as a father, you want to be protective of her. Is that fair to say?
yes,
And you want to help her any way you can. Is that fair to say? And would you agree? And I know this is one of those difficult questions, but would you agree that your testimony is tempered in trying to help her prove her case?
No, sir, I was not.
You're not, okay. So you made the comment to your ex-wife, where our daughter get her mouth, and you're saying that was because they were both being less than pleasant. Did your wife ever talk, or your ex-wife ever talk about y'all's daughter having the same sense of anger or rage that she had when she was younger?
I don't recall.
You don't recall that? Okay. So are you saying that she never discussed that with you, or just that you don't recall her ever discussing that?
You'd have to ask her that. I don't recall that. I recall me, what I said.
Okay. Um, so when you left, you said that neither one of them would let the disagreement go, about what their plans were gonna be for that day. Is that what their disagreement was when you went over there?
I think it was just about their whole relationship. If that's some things they weren't happy about, they were trying to work through it. That's why we sitting there talking to them about relationships and what it takes to have one.
Did you ever ask your daughter why she didn't go to the police on the night that this occurred?
When she called, Mr. I was at my house, she was telling me that.
Objection to the hearsay. I just asked you, did you ever ask her that? Yes or no?
I don't recall, sir.
Okay, because I'm asking you about what you said, not about what she said. Right?
No, I'm trying to tell you that.
She testified, right? Well, I asked the question and you started talking about she called and she said. I'm not asking you what she said. She's provided her testimony here. I'm asking you about what you said and whether or not you asked her, why.
I asked her if she called the police. She said she had not. She said because Mr. Hyde was.
Objection, non-responsive and hearsay, Your Honor.
Objection sustained.
Now, you characterized, Mr. Hyde as becoming irate. Is that accurate?
It is.
And so, you said that, you believed that, he was yelling at the whole situation, correct? And that's why you were there?
I was there because he could call me to come over, sir.
Right. So, but that took place while you were there, right? So if he was irate while you were there, did you think it was going to go well for you, for them when you left?
I wasn't sure, but he told me he was going to Houston. They were both at that point not listening to what we were trying to get through to them. And I told him I need to get back to my home.
Okay.
Y'all work it out, you know, do whatever you have to do to stay calm.
Now, that evening, you said you received a call from Daenerys while the Super Bowl was on. Is that correct?
I don't know if it was off or still on or off, sir. I don't recall. I just know I received a call from him saying, could I come over again? I told him I was not coming. I had done that earlier today.
Okay. Kids, they were interviewed forensically, correct?
I don't know, sir.
You don't know whether or not they went to the guardhouse?
Objection asked and answered, Your Honor.
Objection sustained.
Okay. I'll swear it, Your Honor.
Ms. Simmons?
Yes.
You just testified, and I just want to make sure I heard correctly. Whatever Victoria had called you with a concerning issue, was Daenerys at your house?
He was.
Why was he at your house?
He said that he was, done with her, he was irate and upset, and yelling and screaming and saying. After that, we asked him, why are you doing all this if y'all done? And he said, well, I really just came to bring her phone because she dropped it, when she left.
So Daenerys had Victoria's phone.
Right.
No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Wilkerson?
I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Senegal, you may step down. Now, the rule has been invoked, and what that means is you're not allowed to talk to any other witnesses or anyone else about your testimony here today. You can only talk to the attorneys that are involved in the case. If you violate this rule, you can be subject to being held in contempt of court. Okay? You may step down and you have a blessed day. Ms. Simmons?
State rest, Your Honor.
Approach, Your Honor.
Will there be a brief recess? You may be seated. Let the record reflect that the board is back in session and cause number 23 CCCR 0390, case of style of state of Texas versus Denair High. Let the record also reflect that Mr. High is present in court with his attorney, and let the record also reflect that the state is present with its assistant criminal district attorneys. Let the record also reflect that the jury is now present and seated in the courtroom. The state has rested. Mr. Wilkerson, you may go forward.
Defense calls Cynthia Lorder.
Cynthia Lauder. Ms. Lauder, would you please come forward? Ms. Lauder, would you please raise your right hand? Ms. Lauder, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Lauder, you may put your hand down. Ms. Lauder, you could take a seat in the witness stand. You could adjust the mic. Mr. Wilkerson, you may proceed.
Thank you. Afternoon, Ms. Lorder. How are you today? Good. Thank you for being here. I know you're appearing under a subpoena and you didn't volunteer to come testify, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, but I wanted to ask you some questions surrounding, the 12th day of February 2023. During that time, did you go to the apartment where Mr. High and your daughter Victoria were living?
Yes, I did.
And that was that around noonish that day?
Yeah, it was after church, well,
And did you go over because it was your understanding they were arguing?
well, my daughter and I were texting a little bit in church and I was coming. The vibe wasn't right. I went right out to church, check on my granddaughters and my daughter.
You picked up the granddaughters, correct?
I did.
Now, so after church, when you go over there, at that time, are Mr. Senegal, Victoria, and Mr. High all seated together at the kitchen table?
Yes.
Okay. And did you sit down with them and have a discussion at that time?
I didn't, I may have spoken a few words, but, my main interests were my granddaughters and I know they were having the discussions. I just kind of got them out the way. I took
Understood.
them with me.
Understood.
Mhm.
So, you didn't sit down and talk about relationship issues at that time, did you?
I did not, I may have made a statement about her dad and I, and how we kind of come together when it comes to our daughter with her concerns, yeah.
Understood. And, so based on the exchange you were having with your daughter, you said the vibe wasn't right. Would you agree that, the discussion was, a more serious toned discussion?
The discussion at the apartment or?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but especially to find her dad there, yeah.
And was, while you were there, was anybody yelling at each other?
Yeah, it's been a while, I don't recall yelling. I know they were all talking and, like I said, my interests were getting my granddaughters out of the way so they can finish their discussions. I knew it was something
Yes, ma'am.
dealing with relations, her dad was there.
And, now, you are a life coach, is that correct?
Yes, I do like coaching.
And as a life coach and as Victoria's mother, did you at some point try and engage Mr. High about the issues that they were having in their relationship?
The only time I talked with him was by text. After I returned my granddaughters, Victoria were leaving and, she took her daughters with her. And he and I we engaged in text conversation.
Okay,
I never talked to him in person. It was by text.
understood, understood. Do you recall telling him in some of those same text messages that you saw in Victoria the same anger that you had when you were young and that you got from the situation that arose with you and your mother?
I didn't mention anything about my mother, but you can see your kids mimic things that you do.
So you don't recall talking about your mom walking out on you because of your mouth and things of that
Oh,
nature?
yes, I do remember that conversation.
Okay, and then you shared that you were
I
full of
shared
anger
with him,
at that
when I
time.
was growing up, I dealt with a lot of anger and, what made me stop doing what I was doing was one day when my mom decided to leave my home because I was shouting and yelling. And I say that changed my life after that.
And within the context of that discussion, did you go on to say that you see that same issue in your daughter?
I probably did say that, just the anger, and I also shared things about just things she's been through, yeah, make her angry.
And did you go on to tell Mr. Hyde that that yes, Victoria had disrespected him, but that he may have been disrespectful to her in a way that made her feel the lack of self-worth that Jordan Grant made her feel?
I may have, that's been some, like, what, 2 years texting? Can't remember word for word. My whole conversation really was to talk to him as a mother.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it. But for his word for word, can't remember everything I said by text.
Okay. I tell you what, can I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
And I understand remembering every word is very difficult. I just want to
Very.
provide a couple of these for you so that you might be able to look at them and then I'll ask you about it after you have an opportunity to kind of look at them.
Oh, yeah. These are the messages that was sent to him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so am I mischaracterizing any of them in any way?
No. It May was talking, was telling him about my daughter and telling him also about himself.
Mm.
You know.
Um, and so, do you recall in the context of that discussion, him talking about how she would yell in front of the children and things like that?
No, it has been 2 years and I'd have to read all those messages to know exactly what I said. But those are my text messages.
And you're Victoria's mom,
I am her mother.
and you want to support your daughter in every way possible, and you don't want anyone to think in any way about her that would be anything other than glowing terms. Is that fair to say? I mean,
Well, I'm gonna put it like this, they were in a relationship.
Mhm.
And I thought the relationship was really going somewhere, so I'm talking to both of them.
Mhm.
That's what the text messages really was all about.
Mhm.
Mainly to him. Because the day I went by, I know he was pretty angry. I don't know what for. Her dad was in the conversation.
Mhm.
I was not in that. I left with the girls.
Okay,
But the text messages start coming in from him, I think, first. And we just proceeded on through most of the evening talking about text.
all right. Now, you said you came and picked up the girls. At what point, did they go back with their mom?
I went to the store, so I wasn't gone a long period of time,
Okay,
and I
so
brought him back.
you picked up the girls and then you brought them back. When you got back with the girls, was Victoria's father still there?
No, I think he left and she was leaving out the gate and I gave her the girls and they were all leaving,
Okay, so all of them were leaving together?
her and my daughters.
Her and her daughters,
Yes.
okay, and her father was leaving at that same
I think he
time?
was leaving also.
And
Yes,
was Mr. High still there? Had he already left?
I think he was still there. I didn't see him outside.
Okay, so, but you did see those two, your daughter and her father leaving together that day?
Yeah, they all left.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you, Ms. Lord.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Simmons, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lawler.
Good afternoon.
You testified a moment ago with defense that the vibe was off between you and Victoria. Is that correct?
Could you repeat the question?
When you were speaking with Mr. Wilkerson just a
Mhm.
moment ago, you testified that you were texting during church and the vibe between you and Victoria was off. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't feel right about something because Victoria and I had went to Houston Saturday. And this was Sunday, so I was really just checking in because they didn't come to church. So just checking on her and the girls.
Was it normal for Victoria and the girls to make an appearance at church every Sunday?
Not every Sunday, but most Sundays they're at church.
Very
Yes.
frequently.
And just from our conversation on Saturday.
Was there anything in the text messages between you and Victoria that caused you to be concerned in terms of the vibe being off?
Well, that she didn't arrive at church and just like I said, conversation we had on Saturday, coming in from Houston and, just the text messages, just some other,
So when you
Yeah.
went to Daenerys Victoria's home after church and after you had been texting her, you didn't actually participate in the conversation that was going on at the dining room table, is that
I
correct?
didn't. I think I may have said something like, I don't know, what's going on between the two of them. But I was sharing with him that, he said something like, he liked how we're a family, like we come together. And I said, when it comes to our daughter, because her dad and I are divorced, I said, we come together when it comes to her concern.
So
I
where-
said, my interest is to my granddaughters. I want to get them out of home.
So where were you and the grandkids while this conversation was taking place?
Well, my daughter told me the grandkids were playing, like it's a patio. And, that was my concern. I said, well, I'm gonna just go ahead and pick them up. 'Cause I
So,
didn't know exactly what was going on.
so for the short period of time you were actually at Daenerys Victoria's, you were mostly with the children and playing with them on the patio.
I took them with me. I told them to grab their coats.
Where did you end up taking the girls?
I went to the store.
The store, how long did you have the girls with you?
Not long, not a long period of time. Just want to, grab them and I pretty much knew it was something dealing with their relationship and just wanted to get my granddaughters out of the way. I didn't care for them being outside either.
Was it you that returned the children to Victoria? Okay, could you give an estimate to the jury about how long you had had them out with you?
I only went to one store, so it couldn't have been even an hour, yeah.
And you testified whenever you returned the children, Victoria was getting prepared to leave, is that
Yeah,
correct?
she was getting ready to, get in her car, go to her car. She had some things in her hand and, she had the kids with her. I think she was going somewhere to watch the game. It was Super Bowl Sunday.
Did she look upset at that time?
Yeah, she still looked upset.
Did she look maybe distraught?
She did. She did, yeah.
Did you see any arguing whenever you dropped the children back
I
off at the
didn't.
house?
I did not.
Did you even see Daenerys when you dropped the children back off at the house?
No, only time I seen him when I picked the kids up.
So when you saw Victoria upset, when you went back to the house to drop the kids off, was that the last time you saw her that day on February 12th?
No, it wasn't. I saw her that night at her dad's house. And he called me.
So Mr. Senegal, Daryl Senegal,
He called me.
he had called you.
Mhm.
And was it at that time that you went to Mr. Senegal's house?
Yes, I did talk with Victoria by text and told me that, Janae encouraged her to come back
Objection,
home.
Your Honor, you're
Stop right there.
Objections, same.
So whenever you were called by Mr. Senegal, you went to his house, and
Yes.
correct?
Yes, he called me.
Who was at that house?
My husband took me, asked him to drive me, and his wife, and he was there. Victoria, the girls, and, officers were called. Yeah,
So you saw Victoria.
I did.
What did she look like?
Her face, like she had a fight. Just real shaken up.
Could you tell the jury her behavior during that time?
Very nervous, yeah. Actually, I didn't know what happened, her dad told me.
But you were able to observe.
I was there when they took pictures of her face.
Can you tell the jury just briefly, I guess a little more detailed, what you saw, what you observed?
She was very nervous, upset, and I didn't hear her talk until she talked to the officer. That's the only time I heard the conversation, besides her dad. Just real shaken up, yeah.
Now, you were testifying us to some text messages between you and Tanner earlier. When did those text messages take place?
Those text messages took place during the game. I was at a friend's house.
So they were on February 12th?
Yeah, the same day of the game.
So during the Super Bowl?
During the Super Bowl, yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now, those text messages, you made a statement that Victoria might have been angry. Is that correct? Did I hear that incorrectly?
He was explaining how I said how she shows anger and I once showed anger when I was younger. That's what he was explaining.
Did you ever make a statement to Daenerys in those text messages that she was angry?
Not that day about her being angry, just talking like, telling someone history of something going on, why this may take place.
So the entirety of these text messages weren't of anything that you have observed. You were just talking to
Just
Daenerys.
talking to him about him.
Y'all weren't
About
having
her.
any altercations?
Excuse me?
Y'all didn't have any altercation in those text messages?
No,
No further questions from this witness.
not at all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Wilkerson?
Just very, very, very briefly, so. You said, the two of you went on Saturday to Houston, correct?
Yes, it was Saturday. We went to Houston.
And, without talking about what specifically was said, was there a conversation that involved, Jordan Grant that Saturday?
Saturday?
Yes.
No,
And when I say involved, let me step back for a second, that, not that he was present for the conversation or spoken to, but, that he might have come up in conversation.
not that Saturday.
Not that Saturday, okay.
No.
And so, do you recall making, a statement, about possibility of losing the kids to CPS?
Never.
Never?
No, I don't remember that.
You didn't, have concerns about the kids being in volatile situations repeatedly?
No.
No? Now. You, you actually, when you're talking about the anger issues, you actually tell Mr. Hyde that you hate to see the things in Victoria that were part of you. Isn't that correct?
Anger?
Yep.
Yes, I said that, anger.
So You had observed your daughter to have a hot temper, is that accurate?
Yeah, I have.
That's what.
Stepping from the six.
Okay. May this witness, be excused
Yes, sir.
in the state? Okay. Ms. Louder, you're excused. Now, Ms. Louder, before you leave the witness stand, I need to inform you that the rule has been invoked. And what that means is you are not allowed to talk to any witnesses or anyone else about your testimony here today. And the only persons that you can talk to are the attorneys. If you violate this rule, you could be held in contempt of court. And with contempt of court, you can be subjected, being sentenced to jail for up to 180 days and a fine up to $500. Do you understand? All right, you may step down and you have a blessed day. Okay. Hmm. Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this will conclude the testimony for today. We're gonna ask that you be back tomorrow at 1:30, and please sit outside of the courtroom. Okay, so at this time, everyone, please stand as the jury exits the courtroom. The court will be in recess.